Welcome, everybody, to the GreeneScene Podcast. This is Shelly Brown, your host today, and I have the pleasure of co-hosting with Dolly Throckmorton.
That's right. Yeah. How are you doing, Shelly?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Good.
I mean, we're getting ready to talk about everything we like.
That's right.
That's right. Folks, we have a couple more guests with us today, and I think you're going to love this one. We are going to reminisce and learn about one-room schoolhouses in Greene County. I have Brad Braddock with me here, who has a lot of information about that, knows about it. And get this, we got Daddy, Paul Braddock here, who actually attended a one-room schoolhouse in Greene County. So sounds like a good topic, and we invite you to stay tuned and listen in. Brad Braddock?
Yes, thanks for having us this morning. My father and I had the honor of the GreeneScene asking me to do an article, and it was a lot of fun digging up the history on the one-room schoolhouses. And I was racking my brain on who to speak to. Came across a neighbor of mine, Steve Sims, who had some nice memories of family going to the Aleppo Township one-room schoolhouse, where he talked about having a six-man football team. They play offense and defense, really cool stuff like that. And then I contacted my father, Paul Braddock, who I thought would have some great memories. And it turns out he actually went for 2 years to a one-room schoolhouse. So what he has to say would definitely be better than what I have. So firsthand knowledge. So I can turn that.
Well, we're glad to have you here, Paul.
Well, thanks for having us. We appreciate that.
Yeah. So when and where? How old were you when you went to this schoolhouse?
Actually, that's kind of an interesting subject. I went with my brother who started that year, so they started me too. I was still 4.
Oh, wow.
Almost 5.
Preschool
Yeah.
before there was preschool.
But they would do that. If you sort of qualified on what you were learning and could do, they'd go ahead and put you in the grade.
Why not?
So
Nice.
It was quite interesting to be in a place where there were 8 grades in one room, and I think you learn a lot from that too. You see your mentors, and you see what's coming and what you can or can't do. And the thing I remember most about it was they really did teach responsibility. I didn't go to any of those grades, including the one-room school, of course, that they didn't talk about responsibility. And all of you probably remember Max McMillan, who was great on teaching responsibility. He didn't have you spell it a few times every day. But we need a lot of that in our schools today. It should be taught. There's several things lacking now that was taught then that I think was very, very relevant to our education. The 3 R's, the reading, writing, arithmetic, is no longer stressed, and that certainly should be.
Absolutely.
And so I'll stop there for a moment.
Well, which schoolhouse did you go to?
On Long Run Road near Bristoria was a one-room schoolhouse. There were 8 grades in it.
Yeah.
And
Behind
anybody
the
that remembers that era, there was a church there, Long Run Church of God, and right behind it was a school.
All right.
That's the way it worked. And the local people all went there.
Right.
One teacher, 8 grades, and
So
that was it.
That's amazing to me. Like that you had, I know that's how a one-room schoolhouse operates, but how did they teach somebody that was 4 years old all the way to somebody that was maybe 13?
Well, she did it by grades.
Okay.
The first grade would go, then the second grade was on, and what she was going to teach that day. But being in the one room, you got to hear it all and see it all. It was interesting, very
So
interesting.
if your grade wasn't up, you just sat there and worked on your homework or had to stay quiet or do whatever. If they were teaching
they made you
something.
stay quiet, that's
yes,
for sure.
Yes, I figured.
They had the big paddle up there.
Motivation.
Yes.
And they used it if necessary, that's for sure. And it was not something that needed to be qualified. That was part of school. If you either got it on the butt or you got it across the hand, so you didn't want either of those.
It didn't take too many times before you knew.
You had told me a good story about one of the taller school kids.
I remember one of the upper grade school kids was being disciplined for something, and she brought him up to be paddled in front of the class, and he just got a hold of the paddle and laughed at her. He was a big boy. So they saw some interesting things happen.
Do you remember the teacher's name? Who was your teacher?
I'm sorry I don't remember that year's teacher's name, but it was quite an interesting part of your life, that's for sure. And I think you learned a lot more.
I can see that from what you mentioned earlier. Like you said, when you either had a little assignment to do or whatever, but
Right.
if you're hearing the sixth graders doing something, you're hearing that too, and you're learning.
Yes.
Today you might walk in a school and you see the undiscipline in so many schools, and that wasn't tolerated back in the one-room schoolhouses. There was discipline, and I think that's lacking dramatically in a lot of schools today.
Yeah, right. Another R is respect, and I feel like that's really important, and I think it sometimes is lacking, and they don't understand the influences of our world today are really much different than they were then, or even when we were young. You know.
Oh, yes. I mean, even in the last, what a shift in just the last 10 years. Is incredible. So how many students, going back to your one-room schoolhouse, how many total students do you think were in the room? Like
Probably not more than 20 or 25.
20, 25, yeah. So
something
small,
like that.
right? Some grades may only have a couple people in them. Yeah.
It was a very interesting time of your life and part of your life, but you did learn a lot, that's for sure.
I think so.
And
Yes.
Again, they stressed the 3 R's, the reading, writing, arithmetic was really stressed. If you couldn't write well or read, you were taught to.
And you know, that's so true. I mean, even now, that's very true. When if you can't read,
You
then
can't
you
do
can't
much.
really do anything
That's
else.
right.
You know,
Right.
and so-
If you can
and
read,
they
you can do
stressed
anything.
too the discipline of talking about the Lord's Prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and occasional Bible readings. That was part of it.
Yeah.
And it was expected, and you learned a lot from that. It set your standards.
Yes, yeah, they would do that.
I had read the older children were responsible for helping teach the younger children as well if the teacher was
great.
overwhelmed.
Yeah.
You probably remember that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure the teacher was overwhelmed.
I'm
I
sure.
would be. It's
That many
making. I'm
children.
overwhelmed just thinking
Just
about
thinking
it.
about it.
Trying to juggle all of that.
Handle
And,
20 kids,
yes.
all different ages.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you could call it coordination. Look, everybody worked together.
And they learned from teaching.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I've learned that in my life. And anytime I've had to teach something, I learned more than the students did. You know, just preparing and teaching and
Absolutely.
discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. So So you, Brad, you've done most of the research on the one-room schoolhouses and, accumulating that history and everything else. How many one-room schoolhouses were in Greene County? Is that something you would know? Or?
Boy, that's something I can't answer. As you ride around, you still see a lot of them that are left
Sure,
over, which
yes,
is wonderful.
yes.
Like down towards Carmichael's, there's a couple still out towards our way, Lepo Township area. But I don't know. I apologize. I don't have the answer
No,
on
that's
that.
okay. I was just wondering. I mean, it seems like there must have been many.
Yes.
Yes.
I've seen them just myself driving around. People have converted them into homes now. You see people living in them. People have converted them into other types of maybe a small business, Airbnb, all those different kinds of things. So it is kind of a phenomenon almost.
It is.
From our past that we're not seeing anymore. But nobody had any transportation, right? So
That's right.
they would have to build something that everybody could walk to, right?
I remember my mother talking about walking to high school at Aleppo, which is like 5 miles.
Right.
I think an answer to the question, how many were there, I think every small community had one.
Okay.
I would guess at
yes,
one
that would
point.
make
Yeah.
sense. Yes, that would make sense.
Each township?
Yeah, at least each township.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That makes total sense.
I think one of the ones that most people are familiar with because it's been is the Krause Schoolhouse.
Yeah.
That one's pretty well known.
Yes. Yes.
Because the community in what's his name?
Buzz Walters.
Buzz
Buzz
Walters.
Walters, yeah.
There we
Buzz.
go.
Buzz kind of led the charge on getting the roof on that and getting the siding on it, and so it's preserved now for all to
The
enjoy.
Graysville Straight Stretch there's one converted there. It's a residence.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I've seen
Right
that.
before the old Graysville store there. It's a pretty home. They did a nice job with that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's great that people have, the initiative and the interest to keep them restored, because
part of history.
I'm sure that it's not cheap to, especially if one's in poor condition,
Right.
and has been sitting there vacant for years, like to take that on. It's great.
Yeah, it is.
My father had some other great stories about disputes, little fights being settled, what they call the coal house.
Yes. We want to hear all the tea. We want to hear about the fights.
That's one thing hasn't changed.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. But along that line, there's a lot more discipline, and that's what's lacking in our schools today. And of course, I still wonder why other things aren't taught in school. For instance, nutrition. Why isn't nutrition studied more? Why isn't the discipline of self-defense presented in the schools? We'd have a lot less problems.
I used to think that even when I was in school and we had class home economics, and at that time, which has been a long time ago too, we would learn to cook something. We'd follow a recipe, and maybe even sew. But I've thought many times the two classes that I think could be so valuable is home economics, which is what it's called, where
Absolutely.
you learn about budgeting, you learn about financing in your home, you learn about health, you learn about and physical education is the other one. And I think of that, what it's called, physical education.
Right.
So we need to know about first aid, health, maybe survivalism, that sort of thing.
Sure.
That I'd like to see, and I know they touch on that, some of those things today, even, but I'd like to see.
But not at the extent that they would have years ago. There's so many more subjects now.
Yes.
I mean, as you are speaking about reading, writing, and arithmetic, now just expand on that. I mean, it's almost endless at this point.
Is.
How do you teach everything that you may need to know?
It would be a challenge.
Yes.
And I don't mean to say that our schools, I actually think, I'm impressed. I read the Cool at School article in the GreeneScene, and I'm like, that is cool. They do a lot of real life things, and I like to see even more of that. But I hear what you were saying though about the basics and the respect and responsibility and morals, that sort of thing. I want to hear about the fights.
Yes, I do too. I want to hear how they were settled. Were there older kids that came in and said, "Listen, you two 7-year-olds need to, get it together"? I'm sure you had recess, right? People went out on the playground, then everybody, of course, especially the boys, probably had so much energy from sitting in the classroom and they need to get rid of that, right?
That's a good point, and then certainly an interesting subject, but you knew what the discipline was and you were to follow it. And if you didn't follow it, you either got kicked out of school or you got paddled and straightened out
and learned to follow it.
You went along with the program. And that's sort of the way it was.
Yeah.
Now, it would be, you'd have probably, 3 or 4 miles to get to school. What was the transportation like for you and your brother that was 2 years older than you?
Well, somebody would drive and you'd ride with them was the usual.
Okay.
They didn't have a lot of busing then.
Yeah.
So, and like I said before, my mother, I've heard her talk about walking to high school.
Right. I thought you were going to tell me you rode on your brother's back.
Yeah, and he was on a bike, and you were like,
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be that easy. So not that much different than people do now. If you depending on where you live, if your bus picks you up so early that you could actually be to school quicker, or parents can drop you off on their way to work, it's probably a similar kind of thing.
Back to your question, if you didn't follow the rules, you got out one way or the other.
Right.
You got thrown out or kicked out or disciplined and followed the rules. So it was pretty firm.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the kind of the morality that teaches that you don't have the sense of entitlement that we often see,
right? Not
only in school but in employment and all of that, where you think it's owed to you. Well, no, it's not. It's a privilege. It's a privilege and something that you need to earn too.
Yeah, very good point. And you see that today.
Sometimes.
You go to some schools and you're exactly what you said. They think they're there because you owe it to them. They're not getting there for education or getting there for whatever they want to do, and that's totally wrong.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking about some of the other one-room schoolhouses, and if you go out by the pickleball courts, going out, what would that be, like 221? What is that? Like, it's not Rolling Meadows Road. Gerard's Fort Road turns off to the right. So right before, by the museum, the Greene County Historical Society, right, not far from that. So when I was in high school, they were renovating that building, and it was only the gifted students. I, not one of those people, even though I graduated second in my class, I was not gifted Okay. My husband was. He was gifted. Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't be saying that in air quotes. Can you tell that I'm still I'm still mad about it after all this time? No, I'm kidding. Anyway, they were renovating that, and I remember that was one of their projects. They went out there and painted. They were painting. I don't know if they were like working on the floor, but that was one of the projects that they did.
And that
Yes,
building's still there.
That
functional.
building is still there. It's still functional. I don't think there's any heat in it. At some point, I feel like I went to a yoga class there, or I had to teach a yoga class there or something. So, I mean, it's open. It's just an open building. But I don't think you could use it in the winter because there wouldn't be any way to heat it. Well, you could bring in a space heater.
Yeah.
It's not that big, right? It's one room. So, yeah.
They heated the one-room schoolhouse I went to with a coal stove in the middle.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes.
And so that was the first thing on the agenda, was get the fire going, keep the place warm.
Yeah.
Right. So the students, you're saying, were responsible for some of that,
They had
too.
this
Haul the
assigned
coal
duties,
in and
Haul the coal. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Coal house out back, go get the coal.
Yes. Again, another learning opportunity
There you
right
go.
there.
Yeah.
For the students. That's awesome. And then what did you do for everybody brought their own lunch, I'm guessing, right? You were responsible for that. There was no lunch served to you. Your parents or you put it together, right? Yeah.
People
What kind
would bring
of
it-
things would you take to lunch?
I
That's what I want to
remember
know.
one fellow one time brought a little groundhog to school.
Like not for his lunch, right? No.
I remember that well because I traded my lunch for the groundhog.
Oh.
Yeah, your pet
That
groundhog.
made my parents happy when I got
So
home.
you came back with an empty lunchbox, but a groundhog.
Yeah.
And you're nice. I'm sure your parents, were really happy about that.
That was, you did what?
Yes.
You used to feed him caramels, I think you told me, right? You used to feed him
Caramels?
caramels.
The groundhog.
Yeah, we used to feed that little fella caramels.
He must have been pretty hefty groundhog then, if he was surviving on caramels.
Well, he was just a handful as a baby.
Oh, yeah.
But of course, he grew into a real groundhog, and they make great pets, by the way.
So you kept
Really?
him for a while, and he was your pet.
Oh, yeah, he kept him for years.
Years. Okay. What was his name?
I didn't know that.
Weezer.
Weezer. I love it. I love it.
But every time you walk out of the house, he'd be standing there begging for candy.
Yeah,
He
he was
loved
spoiled.
candy.
Yeah, he was addicted to sugar.
Yeah, well, we can all relate to that.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Well, there's a twist right there.
There
I
it
would have
is.
never thought of a groundhog as a pet, and they make a
they
good
make
pet.
wonderful pets.
Oh,
That's
my parents-in-law
wonderful.
had a groundhog
Yeah.
when they were first married, and was their first. You know how newly marrieds get a fish or a dog or a cat before they start having children?
Yes.
They had a groundhog.
Oh, well, hey,
Yeah.
did it live outside? I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'd get a hole in the bank. You go out and call for them. They'd come right
They'd
out.
come right out.
You know, that type of thing.
That's fun. I want a pet groundhog.
So that's a good one-room schoolhouse.
That is. That was not a turn I was expecting.
I'm
things
sure there
to
was
go.
a lot of times you guys brought things in and
Yes.
traded
Yeah,
for.
oh
and
yes,
whatever,
I'm
yeah.
sure there was a lot of trading going on. Like I have this,
What do you give me for that?
What do you give me for that? Yeah, I
Marbles
like that.
was a big deal on
Marbles.
trades.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That would be.
Yep, the marbles. I remember playing marbles as a kid. I think my mother gave them to me because she probably paid them as a kid.
Probably.
I probably couldn't even pick up one now.
I remember playing jacks with a ball and jacks.
You're right. That's
That
what it was. It was
Well,
jacks.
you might have played marbles too.
Maybe,
but, yeah.
but I remember the jacks. That's
I used
what
to
it
play
was. It
those
wasn't
just sitting
marbles.
on the floor at home,
in the kitchen floor.
Kitchen floor,
Same.
right.
Yep.
Same.
Yeah, right in my mother's way.
Yes. Same.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Brad? I'm really glad that you decided to write the article and to bring your father here. What a fun reminiscing and just interesting to contemplate on. And there's still a few around, not open,
Right.
but still restored or whatever. I'm sure our listeners know of. They're sitting at home right now saying, "Well, what about this one and what about that
Oh,
one?" They
you
all have
know,
names,
yes, yes.
And that's great, folks.
Yes.
You folks used to do that covered bridge, you'd go to different covered.
Yes,
Yes.
That'd be
that's,
kinda
we'll
neat
be
to
talking
do
about that
schoolhouse
at
tour.
some point. Yes,
Do a
yes.
schoolhouse tour.
Yes,
one
that
of
would
these
be
days.
great. And
It'd be a blast. I
yes.
think.
Well, all right, you're in charge of making the trail.
I can
would
do
do
that.
yes,
Map it
that would be
out.
a great trail.
Map it out.
And
I'd be
I think
honored
you
to.
could be like, if people live there, they could do an open house.
Oh, that'd be like that
That'd
one
be
out
so
on Graysville
fun.
Road. Yeah.
Yeah, like if somebody's already living in it and they could do, a little tour. And yeah, that's a new event to put on the Greene County schedule.
I have a
One-room schoolhouse tours.
A cousin
Yep.
who lives in a one-room schoolhouse, not in Greene County, but right across the line in West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And the original chalkboard is still there. They've renovated. The rooms are the same,
Mm-hmm.
but well, it's a one room but they had a divider. I guess it grew big enough that they had to separate it, but they opened that divider up, and he added a little loft and stuff. But
Nice.
the chalkboard's still there, and it's a great big chalkboard.
Yes.
Really
I mean,
nice.
if you were lucky enough to have that preserved in the building, you'd have to keep it.
Oh, of
you'd
course,
have to
yeah.
do something around it.
Yeah.
I remember painting a small wall in my house when my kids were little that was a chalk wall, so they could draw on that wall. And so
That was a good idea.
Yeah, because it's fun. So if you had a real chalkboard, you'd be keeping that for sure.
All right. Well, I really thank you guys for coming in and being with us.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
for
us.
inviting
And sharing
us.
your memories. And Dolly, thank you for co-hosting. We have
Yes. Thank you.
coming up in another the next GreeneScene podcast. I think we're going to be talking to T.R. Maley and Brett Moore and about outdoors and maybe some
Great.
groundhogs too.
Maybe.
I think there's a recipe out
There
there.
might
for
be
that.
there might
Speaking
be
of
some
groundhogs.
words about groundhog hunting.
There may
I don't
be.
know.
So, folks, we thank you all who have tuned in to listen, and we invite you to listen to the next one too. And I hope you're having a great day. This has been the GreeneScene Podcast.
Yes.
Thanks so very much.
Thank you.